Okay, let's dive in. We've got this set of sources you shared, documents, observations, some really personal accounts. And they all paint this picture of, well, a really complex web of lives all intersecting in this small eastern shore town.
Mm.
And right from the start, there's this image that just grabs you, a super successful ad executive in Baltimore, the guy who handles big meetings, wears the Fendi tie,
Yeah,
sells anything,
yeah.
who, believe it or not, at 13 was a thief, shot and left bleeding in a Baltimore gutter.
It's uh it's an almost unbelievable contrast, isn't it? The
Yeah.
sources just throw you right into that dramatic arc.
Yeah.
How does someone even bridge that kind of distance from, nearly dying on the street to this polished world of high-stakes advertising? That transformation, that journey, that's sort of the central puzzle here, I think.
Absolutely. So our mission in this deep dive really is to unpack all these layers, try to understand the family at the heart of it, the boy who becomes the focus for everyone, and then this outsider who arrives with the connection she's trying to hide at first.
Right.
We're looking for those key insights the sources give us into, well, human resilience, loyalty, showing up in unexpected places, and maybe most importantly, how we process information and emotion when they're all tangled up together.
Exactly. It's about seeing how the past isn't just, history. It's active. It's shaping the present. And how family maybe isn't always about biology. It's about choice,
Hmm?
deliberate choice.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens when these really different perspectives just collide head on?
Okay, so let's start where the sources seem to begin, with that trauma, that foundational moment for Phillip Quinn, that 13-year-old boy.
The sources are incredibly vivid here,
Yeah.
almost painfully so.
Mm-hmm.
They place him exactly, shot with a .25 caliber, and not by some random enemy, but by a friend. In a stolen car, a Toyota Celica, Fayette and Paca, right in the middle of Baltimore's bad streets.
13 years old.
Just 13.
And the details really underline how serious it was. Bullet wounds, chest, blood pressure plummeting, pulse thready and rapid. It wasn't just like a close call.
Yeah.
The sources describe a full-on near-death experience. The lights, bright white, the voices, his body reacting on its own. That description of the tube being pushed down his throat
Yeah.
is brutal. Just a brutal picture of childhood trauma.
And what's fascinating, the insight isn't just the trauma itself, but his reaction to it. Even then, at that age,
Right.
the sources actually quote him, defying the police officer, saying something like, "You think you can scare me? I live with that. Nothing's worse than living with that." It
Wow.
shows this, well, jadedness, sure, but also this raw, defiant resilience. It's already there. The material suggests this wasn't just one bad event. It was kind of the culmination of a life that was already incredibly hard.
And that's the moment where, well, fate, maybe, or deliberate intervention steps in, Ray and Stella Quinn.
Hmm.
The sources show them taking him in, offering him a path completely outside the system he was stuck in. But his first reaction, push them away. I don't need you. I don't need anybody.
Which makes Ray Quinn's response, also right there in the sources, so powerful. He doesn't, give him comforting words. He gives him a brutal reality check.
Yeah.
That tough love speech about the system, about being passed around like canapes, and that horrific possibility of ending up in a cell where someone will make you his bride. It's stark, unforgettable, really shows the stakes, the specific dangers Ray was pulling him away from.
He lays it all out. Here's path A. But then he shows him path B, the alternative they're offering.
Right.
The sources mention a decent bed, regular meals, and all the books he could read, one of his secret loves. That last bit feels crucial.
It does.
It hints at this hidden self, this inner world that Ray and Stella somehow saw and, well, nurtured. It wasn't just about physical safety. It was intellectual rescue, emotional rescue, too.
That mix of, harsh reality and genuine care, that seems to be the crucible, according to the sources, that forged the man Philip became. And that brings us to his present life, which is marked by this really fascinating split.
Yeah, here's where the sources really show his two worlds. On one hand, he's this successful, polished executive, innovations advertising in Baltimore.
Hmm.
You see him loosening his Windsor knot, the Fendi tie, handling big accounts like Stone Tire. It's demanding, high energy, but like the sources say, they didn't pay to see him sweat. He's mastered that cool, capable front.
He's clearly made it in that high-pressure city environment. But then, yeah, gets in his car, that commute.
Battling traffic, rain. The sources even mention the music changing. Tom Petty to the Stones, like a mental shift as he drives towards the Eastern Shore, towards Boats by Quinn.
The other side of the coin. His brothers, Cam and Ethan, are there. And the sources say Philip initially felt like dragged into it. He thought the boatyard was insane, ridiculous, doomed to fail.
Right. Classic older brother, maybe.
Maybe. And yet the sources show he got deeply attached. He admits he hadn't expected to feel so attached.
Right.
So this isn't just about two jobs. It's insight into the different parts of his identity and the tension between them.
That slick city world versus the hands-on, rooted family business.
Yeah, the sources frame it perfectly. The commute, the demands on your time, and the tug-of-war of responsibilities. His life is this constant negotiation between these two halves.
And those responsibilities, that tug of war, right now it seems centered on one young boy, Seth DeLauder.
Yes. Seth is presented really as the emotional core of the current story and the central mystery. The big question the sources pose is, who is Seth? And what exactly was his connection to Raymond Quinn, who's now deceased? And the local whispers mentioned in the material, adultery, of suicide, of scandal, they just make it all the more intriguing.
What's absolutely clear, though, is the Quinns' commitment to him. Philip sees Seth as family, explicitly his brother, as much as Cam and Ethan were his brothers.
Right.
They see Seth through the lens of their own rescue story almost, someone snatched out of a nightmare and given a chance. Their focus is totally on keeping him. They're fighting for him.
And the sources give us these glimpses into Seth's past to show what he was rescued from. Living in grungy rooms 3 flights up, the streets as a dark carnival, learning early that things are often hunted, just neglected, scared, vulnerable.
But the change described is amazing. His face now fuller, eyes less wary. He's got this talent for drawing, doing sketches for the boatyard.
Yeah.
And he's smart, intelligence practically off the charts, getting straight A's.
And you see how coachable he is with the Quinns now. The sources describe the teasing, Cam and Ethan trying to impress Philip by arguing with Seth.
Typical brothers.
Totally. And Philip being the homework monitor, Seth just feels very much at home there at the boatyard. And the decision to put Seth's name on the business sign as a Quinn, and the fact they're filing for custody, those are real, tangible signs of how deeply they brought him in, legally and emotionally.
It's a close-knit world, fiercely protective, and into this world steps an outsider.
Sybill. Yeah. The sources introduce her, arriving in St. Christopher's with a stated purpose, a study, a project. She's immediately flagged as a trained observer, someone skilled at documenting, keeping her distance.
And her first impressions of the town, as recorded in the sources, they sound like field notes. It's a little water town, she notes the slower dialect, the details of waterfront life, work boats chug into dock, crab pickers, the tidy houses. It's all data points for her.
And her initial plan for Seth seems just as detached. Observe, document, report back to his mother, Gloria. She intends to treat the whole trip like a project. Needs time, objectivity, and access.
But the sources quickly peel back that layer, revealing her actual connection, her background. It provides crucial context for why she might be trying so hard to be detached.
Right. She's the good daughter. Obedient, polite, very successful professionally. Psychiatrist's father, grew up with a certain privilege, traveled a lot, family lives in Paris now. And her speech, those clipped tones and hard consonants of the North, they mark her as different right away.
And the kicker, Seth is her nephew, her sister Gloria's son.
Yeah.
And the sources even reveal Sybill took Seth in herself for a while in New York, when he was only 4.
That adds such a powerful layer to her whole objectivity thing, doesn't it? It feels like a choice, maybe even a defense mechanism against a history she's actually deeply tied to.
So not just some detached academic. She has history, responsibility, this family tie she seems determined to compartmentalize. And this world of objective observation is about to slam right into Philip's world of raw experience and fierce loyalty.
The first meeting, it happens, fittingly, at the boatyard, the heart of the Quinn world.
Right.
Sybill's observing from a distance. Philip notices her. And the sources describe it in almost like primal terms. Male sees female, studies, considers, decides. And Philip, shirtless at that moment, is described as a young American god. It's brief but charged. An unspoken awareness.
Then they meet again. Shiny's pub, Sybil still in observer mode, taking notes on the mating rituals, the information gathering in the bar.
Philip joins her.
And their conversation there, it's a perfect illustration of their different ways of seeing the world.
Absolutely. Sybill's analyzing everything.
Yeah.
Sociological takes on men watching sports.
Yeah.
The game is the vehicle, the pattern that matters. Beer commercials, the waitress's survival techniques.
And Philip just grounds it all in local reality, names the waitress, Linda Brewster, challenges her detachment. Maybe it's the game, he suggests. Like maybe her analysis is missing the simple human part of it.
Yeah.
He pushes her directly. You're a scientist. You experiment. Why don't you give experiencing a try with me? It's basically an invitation. Stop analyzing, start participating.
And this dynamic ramps up on their first dinner. Philip, after a bit of hesitation, shares a kind of edited version of his past.
Hmm.
Baltimore on the rough side, got into trouble, Quinn saved him.
Mm-hmm.
Sybill shares her background. Good daughter, psychiatrist dad. And they even analyze their own interaction. Philip says, point blank, he's interested, attracted, and tell it at the game. I'm interested in you. I think I'm both.
And Sybill's response.
Cool analysis. You're attracted to me. That's not always the same thing.
Oof. Clinical. But then the kisses. The sources mark those as a real shift.
Yeah. Philip's internal reaction is telling. He hadn't expected to develop a taste for her so quickly. It feels like a breakthrough. Something getting past her intellectual defenses, suggesting a connection that defies her whole observer stance.
So, as Philip and Sybill are navigating this complicated connection, the sources pull back the curtain on the dark truth about Gloria, Sybill's sister, Seth's biological mother, explaining the real danger Seth is in.
And the details about Gloria are stark, unflinching, living on the block in Baltimore, working on the stroll. The sources explicitly say hooking, focused only on keeping her habit fed.
Grim.
They describe her taking dark joy in disrupting their home. Portray her as basically exactly the same unhappy, manipulative, and disturbed child she always was, just in an adult body.
And the money aspect is particularly disturbing.
Very. The sources point to a clear pattern of blackmail, targeting Ray Quinn. Gloria essentially sold Seth to him, demanded money, got money multiple times, Ray's actions, cashier's checks, cashing out bonds and stock and all that backs this up. It's just an ugly look at a child being treated like a commodity by his own mother.
And Ray's tragic death gets tangled up in this. Killed in a single car accident, coming back from Baltimore, presumably after getting money.
Right. And the detail that he only had, what, $40 left on him? It strongly implies the money was either paid to Gloria right before or maybe taken after the crash, tying his death directly to her demands.
And then, adding insult to injury, after he's dead, Gloria makes this devastating accusation against him.
Yeah. Claimed he demanded sex for grades, intimidated her, had an affair with her years ago when she was supposedly his student.
Which the Quinns fiercely deny.
Vehemently. Pointing out there's no record of her ever attending his classes, and Ray taught for over 25 years without a single incident. They see it, understandably, as her just taking a shot at destroying his reputation even after he's gone.
And the manipulation didn't stop with Ray. The sources show she also tried to blackmail Sybill's own parents.
Demanded a huge sum, or she'd go to the press, to the police, threatening to accuse her father of sexual abuse, her mother of collusion.
Just awful.
And Sybill's flat statement, none of that is true, combined with her observation that Gloria routinely accused men, particularly men in positions of authority, of molesting her. It paints this chilling picture of her sister's pattern.
And finally, the sources uncovered this hidden piece of history connecting Sybill's family to Ray even before Seth.
Right. Sybill's mother was Ray's student. She went home to Boston, disillusioned, angry, and pregnant.
With Gloria.
With Gloria, but she never told him. Decided he was unsuitable, considered an abortion, but then met and quickly married Sybill's father, who Sybill thinks must have loved her very much to take that on. Just another layer of secrecy and difficult history shaping everything now.
And all of this complex, often brutal history just explodes when Philip finds Sybill's notes, her observational notes.
Yeah, this is where the clash between their worlds becomes absolutely undeniable. Philip finds her objective language, especially about Seth, just unbearable. The sources give us his reaction, his anger, throwing her words back at her. The subject appears healthy. He's not a fucking subject, he's a child.
His fury is aimed right at her detachment, her perceived lack of humanity. He tells her flat out it's necessary to be human, not just an observer. He speaks from the gut, using his own past on the streets to hammer home the reality she seems to be intellectualizing. How many Seths there are out there? The system works some of the time. It didn't work for me. It didn't work for Seth.
And Sybill's reaction, it's a powerful insight into her defenses, just shattering. The sources describe her shock, pain, this crushing guilt over the sin of omission that left her own nephew in danger.
She admits it, right, her struggle with emotion.
Yeah, she prefers reactions and behavioral patterns.
God.
But her desire to help seems real. She promises she didn't come to harm Seth, immediately offers to go into social services in the morning. It's the first real crack in that objective facade.
It's that moment where her, carefully constructed formal background just slams into the messy, painful reality of the life she was studying.
Totally. And the immediate aftermath, getting that terrifying phone call from Gloria, threatening Seth,
Mhm.
it leaves Sybil physically ill, nauseated, trembling. The detachment is gone.
This whole confrontation feels like a turning point. It pushes Sybil from observer to participant, especially in how she interacts with the Quinn family.
We see that clearly when she goes to talk to Anna Quinn,
Mhm.
tries to apologize for bolting from Seth's birthday party.
Mhm.
And Anna, because she works in social services, offers this unique kind of understanding, acknowledges the professional need sometimes to hold part of myself back, be objective.
But then she makes that key distinction about Seth.
Crucial distinction, yeah. She tells Sybil it was different with Seth, that everything about him pulled at me. She couldn't stop it. This wasn't professional distance. It was immediate, undeniable connection. She feels they were meant to be a part of each other's lives, that this family was meant to be mine. It highlights this almost faded feeling the Quinns have about finding Seth.
And Sybil responds with vulnerability, compliments Anna and Grace. You're so good with him. So good for him. She sees the balance Seth gets from the Quinns, the strong male influence from the brothers, plus the essential female, what you and Grace give him.
The sources also detail this really tender moment between Seth and Sybil after the party. He's shy at first, not sure if his memory is real,
Right.
but he remembers staying with her in New York. The stuffed dog sleeping in her bed, the story about a frog prince, her perfume bottles. It's not just remembering, it's confirmation that she did have a positive impact back then, during a dark time. That despite her later detachment, there was a history of care there.
And then comes that defining moment. At the waterfront, Gloria shows up. Seth's reaction is pure, instant fear. It's settled in his stomach like balls of ice.
And Sybil's response, pure instinct, completely overrides any training. She immediately puts Seth protectively behind her. No hesitation. Orders local kids to get help. Tell the Quinns we need them. Hurry.
Yeah.
And when Gloria issues threats, Sybil's reply is just simple, defiant. Tell him, this isn't an observer anymore. This is family defending its own. It's a powerful demonstration of her shift. She's all in.
And this personal transformation in Sybil seems deeply tied to the relationship deepening between her and Philip, a relationship that defied her whole observation over participation preference.
We see Philip go to her right after that awful phone call from Gloria.
Mm.
The sources describe him finding her totally distraught, gives her water, a migraine pill.
Mm-hmm.
He presses her again, though, pushing through those defenses. Are you going to try to tell me you care about him? Reaffirming his point from earlier. It's necessary to be human. He sees she's cracking and kind of pushes her towards feeling it.
And then the sources introduce this unexpected element, almost mystical. Ray Quinn's ghost appears to Philip.
Yeah, it's quite a turn. Ray offers guidance, confirms Seth his family, says make it stick. He even comments on Sybil's actions, saying she did a fine job with Seth today.
Wow.
And he offers insight into Philip's own unspoken desires. Says Sybil's the type of woman he should be with, the kind he's under it all, never been willing to settle for less than. And then Ray indicates he's ready to move on, presumably feeling his legacy, his family, is secure now.
That's quite something. It adds this whole other layer to Philip's actions, his motivations. Like, his commitment is being affirmed on some deeper level.
It seems to embolden him, for sure.
Definitely. The sources describe him climbing up to her balcony, literally breaking into her room, bringing flowers and champagne.
Grand gesture.
Totally. Followed by a simple apology. I was feeling pretty rough and I took it out on you. Her reaction is this mix of shock and, well, wit. She's gaping at him and makes that dry comment. Isn't it fortunate that circumstances changed before we made the mistake of sex?
Huh. Even then. But in their conversation, Sybil finally lets her guard down completely, reveals these deep vulnerabilities, talks about her art lessons being dismissed as not practical, being painfully shy growing up, her parents lacking affection, feeling more like a creation than child, and that heartbreaking belief, no one's ever loved me.
Oof. And Philip's response?
Simple. Powerful. You're wrong. He sees past the polish to the pain she carries, recognizes her defenses in little things like nail-biting, migraines, skipping meals. It's an insight into how trauma can just show up physically, subtly.
And the physical intimacy that follows.
The sources describe it as feeling beyond logic, leaving them both defenseless, helpless to refuse. And Philip's internal thought that he's in danger of becoming crazy about her It just highlights how overwhelming this connection is, bypassing all the usual defenses.
And while their personal bond is strengthening like this, the Quinns as a whole show their strength, their unity in dealing with Gloria.
Absolutely. Annie uses her professional skills, takes decisive action. The sources detail her sending Gloria that formal social services letter, initiating an investigation, warning about a restraining order, a warrant if she comes back. It's not just family loyalty, it's using the system smartly to protect their own.
They really present this unified front. Cam, who is initially wary of Sybill, remember, just trying to get a handle on it, it's going to matter to Seth.
Right.
He shifts completely, supports her, was even worried about you during that waterfront scene. Cam and Ethan are proud of Philip's efforts. You worked the hardest to make sure we did, acknowledging his role in holding it all together. They're confident legally, too. Cam says, the insurance company's going to fold their hand.
And Sybil cements her place with them, her commitment to Seth, by making her own decisive call to Gloria. The sources capture her language. It's sharp, direct, a total contrast to her usual style. Tells Gloria to kiss ass. No money, no nothing, no how. It's a full embrace of the Quinns' fierce, protective stance. She's one of them now.
Even the local community, the gossip network figures like Nancy Claremont, Mother Crawford plays a part.
Yeah, the sources note that people are already changing their tune about Ray Quinn, about the whole situation with Seth, once Sybill's connection is known and the truth about Gloria starts getting out. Public perception, fueled by informed gossip, starts shifting their way.
And finally, that incredibly powerful gift from the Quinns to Seth, the boat, sky blue sails, named the Seth DeLauder.
It's more than just a boat, isn't it? It's this physical symbol of his belonging. It honors his past name, his identity, while firmly placing him within the Quinn family legacy. It's a beautiful insight into how chosen families create their own rituals, their own symbols of belonging.
That moment with the boat, it really feels like a resolution for Seth, for the Quinns, but for Philip and Sybill, the sources leave us hanging a bit. There's a final challenge.
They've reached this place of deep emotional connection. Philip explicitly says, I love you.
But their lives, their roots, they're fundamentally in different places. Philip is tied to St. Christopher's. By commitments, responsibilities, deep roots, he says it clearly. I have to stay here.
And Sybil. She lives in New York, prefers cities, values distance. Philip points out the conflict. Why go back to put up that distance again right after I've broken through it?
They grapple with the sheer impracticality. Philip asks, why can't you bend? And Sybill's response is just simple. Maybe shows her ongoing struggle with flexibility when deep emotions are involved. I don't understand.
So the sources leave their future together uncertain, highlighting how hard it can be to reconcile this deep, unexpected love with who you are, where you belong, your geographical roots.
So what do we take away from this deep dive? What insights do these sources offer? Well, clearly, the incredible power of chosen family. How bonds forged in shared experience, deliberate care, can be stronger than blood.
Definitely. And the long reach of the past, how it's never really gone, always shaping the present, for better or worse.
We also see that tricky dance between trying to stay objective and just allowing yourself to be human, especially when emotions run high.
That struggle between independence and the need to belong. And maybe most hopefully, the sources show that finding vulnerability, finding deep love, it is possible, even for people who've built up massive defenses because of past trauma.
Diving into sources like these and all their layers, it really does offer a kind of shortcut to understanding the nuances of human behavior, the surprising ways lives intersect and change.
It really makes you think about your own story, doesn't it? Your own connections.
Which brings us to a final thought for you to ponder, something to maybe mull over. How much of who you are is really set by where you came from, by those first circumstances, those early traumas?
Yeah.
And how much real agency do you have in choosing who you become, who you connect with, who you ultimately love? Can two really different worlds, like Philip's and Sybill's, truly blend seamlessly? Or does love across that kind of distance always demand that someone compromises their roots, their sense of home, in a fundamental way? Something to think about.